Hi, my name is Jaynaya Winmar. I'm a Noongar Balladong woman from Quirinding, Western Australia. I'm a dual business owner, so I've got a commercial cleaning company called Essential Services Australia Group and a consultancy company called Blackburn Sisterhood. I live currently on Naarm, which is Melbourne, and have done for the last 20 plus years, but I try and come back to Perth as much as I can for different stuff. Having the luxury of being a consultant for my company, Blackburn Sisterhood, I get to pick different organisations that I want to be involved in. So through that, I was doing a lot of work with Mindera and Dream Venture Masterclass program and being an ambassador for that program, and then also having a Essential Services Australia Group, which is a commercial cleaning company. So I'm also on the board of the Clothing the Gap Foundation. I'm supporting the Eddie Betts Foundation at the moment as well. So he's just launched that last week actually. So for me it's giving back and creating opportunities for others. So whether it's like I've said this week, like wearing Indigenous labels and fashion labels, exposing people to me and people that look like me, and then creating space for those that are coming through and becoming the next leaders that we have. So that's kind of what drives me, and a lot of those passion pieces that I'm about is that creating of space. It's pretty much kind of not giving myself exposure, but giving the different things I'm doing exposure. So if people are seeing me here, they're following me on LinkedIn, but they're also seeing the journey of everything that we're doing in different spaces. So I wear many hats, and so sometimes there's different things that pop up on my LinkedIn that I'm supporting or I'm attending or I'm going to, or clothes that I'm wearing. So it's all about that positive exposure, I think. 2 years ago, I was sitting in a boardroom, and then someone asked me the question of where do you see Indigenous business in the next 2-3 years, and I went, well, me. But realising as I was saying that I didn't look like me. So being able to be comfortable in my own skin, being myself, but creating space for other people to be themselves. That's why I set up Blackburn Sisterhood, because I got asked to go to a lot of panels and be on keynote speakers, but I didn't have any professional photos, I didn't have a professional bio. I was just making it up and getting it from a nice photo from Instagram or wherever it was. And so my first event that I created for that was for professional women. And we had an Indigenous makeup artist come and do everyone's makeup, an Indigenous photographer that took all the photos, an Indigenous business that did the LinkedIn profile and resumes, and then we had a lawyer volunteer her time and talk about intellectual property, whilst being catered by an Indigenous business. So all of them were female owned and operated in that space. I suggest to people when I go to spaces is networking events, like actually take home 5 contacts from that are relevant to your space, and then 5 that aren't relevant to your space, because the difference you'll get from each of them will benefit you, but then also building that network. So every time you go to a different networking event, you're meeting 10 different new people, and then you're connecting with them on LinkedIn, so you're following journeys. So my mum's a teacher, so always we were told to go and find the information out ourselves and not use her brain. So when I came across the CEO network, it was one of the things that a lot of the sessions that we were doing literally taught us to use our ask muscle, because as women we don't usually ask stuff, we do stuff for other people, and as Indigenous women we are always nurturing our communities and so going into a workspace you're always looking out for everyone else. And I think structurally that's how my business had been set up. It was looking after everyone else, but slowly it's transformed to what I want it to be and making sure I'm looked after as well as everybody else. With being from regional WA, I kind of am exposed to a lot of different stuff that I normally wouldn't have been, but in saying that, it's kind of all coming full circle. So I've got my best friend that's has been buying up farms around here for years. So he's returned home. He's got kids that are going to school, so he's a part of the PNC. So doing all the local community stuff. But then every second year I jump on the harvester with him and do a couple of laps around. And last year I jumped on and kind of really nerded out on the agri-tech that he had. So learning that, like, the system he's got set up that calculates how much he's harvested in all of the crops, and broke it down to different crops of what they were harvesting, and being able to have a conversation with the delegation that Benson Solo brought from America. So there was Nebraskan First Nation farmers that had come across, so we were talking about corn harvests and the bee farms that they had, and so like different conversations to that. So you can kind of take a girl out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the girl. So a lot of those values and those learning mindsets that I've learnt over the years kind of stems from being from the country. Growing up, you always had that imposter syndrome. Like I always had unruly hair that went everywhere, and there wasn't products out there, or there wasn't girls on TV in the shampoo commercials that looked like me. Now there are. I've learnt that one of the first billionaires in America was an African American woman called Madam C.J. Walker, and like if I saw her on TV growing up, finding myself would have been an easier process. I said yes to doing a lot of MCing stuff over this year because building my exposure to those environments too. I MC'd a president's function for the Dreamtime at the MCG, and a room full of over 1,000 people in there with a lot of the ministers in the federal government, state government, and then presidents of the footy clubs and all of the above in there. Just saying yes to things and figuring it out has been one of my go-tos over the last few years after kind of building a network for myself. So surrounding myself with the right people that kind of support me and uplift me, even if I'm feeling flat or I've gone quiet, they ring you and go, what are you doing? Come and have a coffee. So I think, yeah, for me, it's been a growth of all of the above, of like that imposter syndrome, how do I overcome it, faking it until I make it, but then also helping other people on that journey too. Being from my small town, like we're all inclusive of each other, so a lot of our sporting reflected our leadership group. So I always had a voice with my peers growing up and with their family groups, so calling like the non-Indigenous farmers in town uncle and aunties, because I had that personal connection with them. But then developing through the years, going away to boarding school, having another network of friends, travelling and having my travel friends as well that have come back. But then in your workspace, I think being Indigenous, you kind of are more inclusive of other people. So I always laugh when we jump in a car with my close friends, because we always call ourselves United Nations going on tour. So we've got an amazing AFLW player who is a South Sudanese refugee. My best friend's Persian and her family are political refugees from Iran. I've got a Vietnamese friend who's got a single mum who owns a Vietnamese bakery that we go to, and then another Indigenous friend who's from the East Coast. So we've got an eclectic bunch, and we don't actually realise our diversity until we actually sit down and see it through other people's eyes going, oh yeah. So I think if you're a First Nation business looking to get into the startup space or starting up your own business, research, do the mob test, find out who's in business, who has networks that can benefit you, but research and link up with the right people. Even if you're not ready to be in that space yet, go to a lot of networking events, so you're listening to the people that are in that space, so you're building up your knowledge in that space before you go into that space if you're having any doubts.